Casper and Slimer might be the friendliest ghosts out there, and Beetlejuice may be the ghost with the most sleaze. But today's subject is anything but friendly or sleazy. Eliza Cameron, who is far better known as Ghost, is the corset-wearing, gaunt-throttling, cloak-covered, translucent baddie who phased her way through the 90s. Ghost managed to shine amongst a sea of highly attractive and equally deadly femme fatales from those days, standing out as one of the most complex and well-defined characters to come out from those days, but who, despite achieving a high level of success that almost got her onto the big screen, somehow disappeared. Debuting on 1993 on the pages of the comics' greatest world, Ghost was created by the CGW team, or the comics' greatest world team, which was basically the joint efforts of Chris Warner and his superiors over at Dark Horse Comics. So, for those who may not know, Chris Warner is the creator of both X as well as Barbed Wire. Chris also helped in developing several other Dark Horse iconic characters from the 90s comics boom. However, Ghost was actually brought to life by the immensely talented Eric Luke, who is the man responsible for defining the character, giving her a voice, a purpose, and pretty much set the grounds for what would become her entire world, similar to what Bill Finger did for Batman. Ghost's story is a strong mix of mystery and vengeance, centered on Eliza Cameron, a fearless journalist from the gritty, crime-infested city of Arcadia, who was basically eliminated for getting a little too close to the truth while investigating the city's untouchable criminal underworld. However, for Eliza Cameron, that was not only not the end, but rather the beginning of her story, as she returned reconditioned and relentless. Now known only to the world as Ghost, she walks the line between the living and the dead, gifted with the ability to phase through any material, pretty much like Kitty Pryde. But the thing is, she can just as easily solidify herself, becoming tangible enough to pass as a human being, or even intimate enough to be held, or to be felt. Yet her most unnerving power is the Ghost Jump, which is basically a personal form of teleportation that forces her to cross through a nightmarish, timeless dimension filled with hostile, otherworldly entities, before emerging at the other destination. Now, her only known physical weakness is actually jade, as it is the one substance she cannot pass through, and the only material capable of inflicting real harm. Though it should be noted that Ghost is also vulnerable, like many other heroes, to mental attacks, lacking defenses against psychic intrusion, as can be seen in quite a few issues. Ghost's story is more than a tale of superheroes and superpowers, though. It's a haunting journey through trauma, identity, and justice, as well as retaliation. Aimed at a more mature audience, Ghost actually delved into dark, introspective territories, exploring the edges of human nature with themes like grief, addiction, corruption, and moral decay. Ghost blended action, supernatural mystery, drama, and a slight pinch of sensuality, layered with some unsettling imagery that resonated really well with readers. This unique genre fusion didn't just work, it basically catapulted Ghost to the bestseller status, earning a loyal fanbase and positioning the comic as a serious contender even against the industry's heavyweights. Though Ghost's costume was undoubtedly provoking, she was never really a typical cheesecake hero or character. Ghost had a rich cast of supporting characters. Eliza's relationship with her defiant, rebellious sister Margot, is by far the most interesting one, as it is a storm of unresolved tension and unspoken pain. Eliza and Margot are both bound by blood, but divided by the scars of a fractured upbringing. The two carry these emotional wounds that run deep echoes through their past. Their connection is as volatile as it is magnetic. Together, they are a mirror of everything lost and everything that might still be healed, though it might be a little too late for one of the two. One of the major things that sets Ghost apart is its rogues gallery, which included a lineup of deranged characters, so distinct and so unsettling, yet so original that it pulled you deeper into the story with every encounter. Unlike the typical villains that populate most superhero tales, Ghost's adversaries were far more sinister, more cerebral, and more psychologically unnerving than what you would normally see. These foes didn't just throw punches, they invaded minds and twisted morals and left a lasting impression on the characters that they interacted with. They're complex, deranged, and shamelessly vile, yet so uniquely written that you almost enjoy hating them. No, in fact, you actually do enjoy hating them. It's one of those rare blends of menace and charisma that hits the perfect tone for this series. Amongst some of the most notable ones is Dr. October, who stands out as a personal favorite for creator Eric Luke. Dr. October is a deformed, deeply disturbed woman fueled by her obsession and hatred over Eliza. Writer Eric Luke confessed he had the best time writing Dr. October, finding her to be one of his favorite creations. Now, for me personally, Ghost's best villain has got to be, by far, Hunger. Now, Hunger is an assassin unlike any other, as he has the ability to evoke and manipulate a person's most intimate desire, including ghosts. Hunger's power is just such a unique and refreshing twist that leads to some of the series' most layered and provocative stories. Now, if you don't believe me, you need to check out issue 6. Ghost's villains blended psychological warfare with some haunting sensuality, and as such, they elevated the comic from a supernatural noir to something far more fascinating and far more human as well. Ghost's success and popularity in comics allowed the character to finally branch out, and so Dark Horse released Ghost merchandise, starting with the usual posters, prints, as well as high-quality lithographs. And after those, Dark Horse released a series of fancy-looking jade shot glasses, and also a white fancy lighter, until eventually releasing her first limited edition high-quality action figure. Side note, other companies could have learned a thing or two from Dark Horse, because this figure is a far better release than most of the other female figures from much bigger brands. This is how you do it, people. Now, going back, Ghost would get more limited edition figures. This time, however, with higher quality materials, far more detailed and far more expensive. Now, as it often happens, with popularity and high sales comes the possibility of expanding onto other mediums, such as film. A Ghost feature film became a big possibility during the late 97, back when Dark Horse Entertainment and Universal Pictures had a deal to produce films based on their characters. And naturally, Luke was hired to write a script for what could have been Ghost's big screen debut. Ghost fans quickly inquired for details about the film. In fact, most of the year's fan letters were dedicated to casting ideas, with the most recurring name brought by fans being Cena's Lucy Lawless. Though for Eric Luke, the actress he had always envisioned for Ghost was none other than Linda Fiorentino, who he basically said she had a great face and perfect attitude, though he admitted he would likely have no say in who was cast in the role. Now, if I may, growing up I always thought the perfect ghost would have been 90's beauty queen Demi Moore, who was known for playing a wide range of characters, from paranormal widows, G.I. Joe female soldiers, gold diggers, and even teenagers when she was in her 30s. Besides, she had the face, the body, the toughness, and she looked great with short hair. And she even had experience with ghosts. She was just perfect. But, anyways, Ghost writer and developer Eric Luke was no stranger to Hollywood, having written the script for the 1985 cult film Explorers, which was directed by Gremlin's Joe Dante, which was the feature film debut of famous actors Ethan Hawke and River Phoenix. Eric Luke also had experience in film directing, helming the 2 sequels of Disney's Not Quite Human franchise, eventually moving on to writing for animated shows as well, all the way from Gargoyles to Tales from the Crypt Keeper to the second relaunch of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Sadly, after a wonderful 36-issue run, Ghost was unceremoniously cancelled. Now, the reasons behind the cancellation differ, depending on who you ask. Ghost co-creator Eric Luke cited one of the main reasons being the lack of art consistency between story arcs. This actually makes some sense, given how the art styles on the title were always strikingly different from one another. Now, this normally wouldn't be a bad thing per se, especially in Ghost's case, who was quite lucky to have some truly impressive talent working on the title, going all the way from the amazing Adam Hughes, to the incredible Matt Haley, to Ivan Reis, John Cassidy, amongst several others. But for some reason, this lack of consistency was a major blow to the title. In fact, Eric Luke recalls one specific moment in which the art duties were being drafted on to Bosnia, and with a language barrier, the art and pacing from those issues was all over the place and a bit hard to follow. On 1998, Ghost would make a comeback on a brand new series, and with a whole new creative team. On the second run, though, the story would reveal more details about Eliza's past, retconning and changing several aspects that had been established before. However, this time the title lasted only 22 issues, as all these new changes failed to connect with readers. After that run, Ghost would go unseen for about a decade, up until 2012, when Ghost would be relaunched a few more times, with dwindling levels of success, lasting less and less each time, regardless of the top-level talent behind the reboots, as it seemed no one really understood what actually made Eric Luke's Ghost so special. And so, none of those attempts managed to replicate the charm brought by the original Ghost team. Now, shockingly enough, after those failed attempts at relaunches and reboots, and after a long time due, on 2013, Ghost was finally adapted onto another medium, returning in the form of a video game called Ghost, Eliza Cameron, developed by the controversial Big Fish Games. This new Ghost adaptation, though, pales in comparison with the source material, as it was drastically changed, presented more as a point-and-click family-friendly mystery, rather than the gritty, griping story that it originally was. Distancing from the beloved comic book it's based on, aside from the strange departure from the source material, the game itself was heavily criticized, especially for its poor game design, its slow pacing and high level of difficulty, making this the last we ever saw of Ghost, or at least so far. After Ghost, Eric Luke remained quite busy as he wrote a long run for DC's biggest female character, Wonder Woman, which was very well received by fans. After that, he released several audiobooks, which were highly successful. And he even created a fan favorite podcast that ran for over 8 years. He is currently writing his second audiobook, sure to be released soon. As for Eliza, only time will tell if we will ever see her again. And if it actually does happen, which I hope it does, I hope this time she actually stays with us for good. As always, thank you very much for watching. Hope to see you in the next one. Be safe and well. And remember to stay spooky. Boo.
If there's something strange in your neighborhood, who you gonna call? Ghost. If there's something weird and it don't look good, who you gonna call? Ghost. If you're seeing things running through your head, who you gonna call? Ghost. An invisible man sleeping in your bed. Oh, who you gonna call? Ghost. I'm afraid of no ghost. Busted makes me feel good.